On a chilly November afternoon in 1971, a man walked up to the Northwest Orient Airlines counter in Portland, Oregon. He was quiet, nondescript, dressed in a dark suit and tie. He bought a one-way ticket to Seattle, paying in cash. The name on the ticket read Dan Cooper. He boarded the plane, took his seat, and ordered a bourbon and soda. It was the day before Thanksgiving, and Flight 305 was filled with people heading home for the holidays. The mood was relaxed, routine. No one paid much attention to the man in the dark suit. No one could have imagined that this ordinary flight was about to become one of the most baffling mysteries in American history. Shortly after takeoff, as the plane climbed into the sky, Cooper handed a note to a flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. Thinking it was just another passenger's phone number, she slipped it into her pocket without a glance. Cooper leaned closer. "Miss," he said softly, "you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Florence's heart must have stopped. She opened the note. The neat, all-caps handwriting confirmed his terrifying claim. Cooper then opened his briefcase just enough for her to see a tangle of wires and several red cylinders. It looked like a genuine bomb. Florence immediately went to the cockpit and informed the captain. Cooper's demands were relayed to the authorities on the ground. He wanted $100,000 in unmarked $20 bills, and for parachutes to primary and to reserve. He specified that the plane should land at Seattle-Tacoma Airport, where the money and parachutes would be delivered. He remained remarkably calm throughout the entire ordeal, never raising his voice, never appearing agitated. He was polite, even ordering another drink while the plane circled Puget Sound, buying time for the FBI and the airline to meet his demands. The authorities decided to cooperate. The risk of calling his bluff was too great. The lives of 36 passengers and the crew were on the line. After nearly 2 hours of circling, the plane landed in Seattle. The airport was shrouded in darkness and rain. To avoid panic, the passengers were told there was a minor mechanical issue. Once the money and parachutes were brought aboard, Cooper allowed all passengers and 2 of the flight attendants to leave the plane. He had kept his word. With only the flight crew and 1 flight attendant remaining, Cooper laid out his next set of instructions. He wanted the plane to be refueled and to take off again, this time heading south towards Mexico City. He specified a precise flight path: keep the plane below 10,000 feet, fly at a slow speed, and do not pressurize the cabin. The pilots knew these conditions were dangerous, especially in the stormy weather that night, but they had no choice. Around 8 o'clock, the Boeing 727 was back in the air, flying into a dark, tempestuous night. Below them was a vast, unforgiving wilderness of dense forests and rugged mountains in southwestern Washington. Cooper, now alone in the passenger cabin with the flight attendant, began to prepare for his escape. He instructed her to go to the cockpit and stay there. Through the peephole, the crew could see him methodically tying the bag of money to his body. He put on one of the parachutes. Then, he did something incredibly risky. He walked to the back of the plane and lowered the aft air stairs, the rear staircase unique to the 727. A deafening roar of wind and rain blasted into the cabin. The plane bucked violently. The pilots struggled to maintain control. The temperature inside plummeted. And then, somewhere over the dense, black forest, at an altitude of 10,000 feet, with the wind screaming past at nearly 200 miles per hour, Dan Cooper stepped off the stairs and into the night. He vanished. When the plane landed safely in Reno, Nevada, a few hours later for another refueling stop, authorities swarmed the aircraft. The only traces of the hijacker were a few cigarette butts, a black tie he left behind, and 2 of the 4 parachutes. An unprecedented manhunt began. The FBI, along with local law enforcement and military personnel, launched a massive search of the projected jump zone. They combed the forests, mountains, and rivers for weeks, but found nothing. No body, no parachute. No money. It was as if Dan Cooper had been swallowed by the sky. The FBI's investigation, codenamed Noryuk for Northwest hijacking, became one of the longest and most exhaustive in its history. Agents interviewed hundreds of people, followed thousands of leads, and investigated over 800 suspects in the first 5 years alone. Composite sketches of the mysterious hijacker were plastered across the country, but every lead went cold. Was he an experienced skydiver, a disgruntled veteran, an ordinary man pushed to extraordinary lengths? Theories abounded. Some experts were convinced he couldn't have survived the jump. The conditions were brutal: freezing temperatures, torrential rain, and a treacherous landing in dense wilderness at night. He would have been jumping blind, but others believed he pulled it off. They pointed to his calmness, his apparent knowledge of the aircraft's capabilities, and his specific parachute request as evidence of a well-thought-out plan. He was no amateur. The mystery deepened as years turned into decades. The name Dan Cooper, often misreported as D.B. Cooper, became a part of American folklore, a symbol of rebellion and audacity, a folk hero who beat the system and got away with it. Then, in 1980, a glimmer of hope. A young boy named Brian Ingram was digging in the sand on the banks of the Columbia River when he uncovered 3 bundles of decaying cash. The money was waterlogged and bundled with rubber bands. When the FBI examined it, they made a startling discovery. The serial numbers matched the ransom money given to Cooper 9 years earlier. About $5,800 were recovered, but this discovery raised more questions than it answered. The money was found miles from the primary search area, and why was only a small portion of it there? Did it wash down the river? Was it buried by Cooper, who planned to return for it later? Or did he lose it during the jump? The discovery of the money only added another layer to the enigma. The rest of the $200,000 has never been found, despite new forensic techniques and countless amateur sleuths dedicating their lives to the case. No definitive evidence has ever surfaced to identify the man who called himself Dan Cooper. In 2016, after 45 years of fruitless investigation, the FBI officially closed the active case. They concluded that they had exhausted all credible leads. The file remains open, but the resources are no longer dedicated to finding him. To this day, the D.B. Cooper hijacking remains the only unsolved case of air piracy in American history. Did he perish in the unforgiving wilderness that night, his remains and his fortune lost to the elements, or did he land safely, melt back into society, and live out the rest of his life as an anonymous man with a very big secret? We may never know. The legend of D.B. Cooper endures, a timeless mystery floating in the American consciousness, a ghost who jumped from a plane and simply disappeared. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more stories like this.